kugaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere
Tuyarasabanaga
tujya imbere. Rwanda imana itaha batuye imitima tugutuye turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere. Genocide. Mubyo dukora tubinashikirwa iteka ijambo riduha ijambo u Rwanda imanitaha ubumwe ibikorwa n'iterambere niyo ngabo niyo nganzo icyo cyerekezo mata y'amaraso y'abana b'akanyarwanda kudashoboye kudusubiza inzirakarengane watwaye nuramire abarokotse ugarura imitima y'abahemutse twubaka isi izira amahano twubaka isi izira Genocide ntibizongere ntibikabe Genocide turayamaganye.
Your Excellency Emmanuel Hategeka, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the UAE, Your Excellency Haldi Al-Rashid, the Elector in charge of Africa at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, the United Arab Emirates, Excellency Ambassadors, representative of international organizations, respected friends of Rwanda, dear Rwandans, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to this event, the 28th commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, the dark chapter of the history which claimed the lives of 1 million people only in 100 days. This is a very hard moment. It's really worth remembering. Today, I will be leading you through this event with my colleague Bosco. My name is Pierre Myombano. I work at the Embassy of Rwanda in Abu Dhabi. Our program today, we will just start with an opening prayer. After the opening prayer, we will have a minute of silence to honor the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Then after, we will light the commemorative candles, the light of hope, because Rwanda has hope. Because of hope, Rwanda managed to rebuild itself, and the hope for the future is promising. This event will feature a short video of Rwanda's Renaissance. We will also have a performance by Uruyanje Cultural Troupe, featuring a song, words of hope, and also a poem. We remember the genocide against the Tutsi, but also we have living testimonies. That is why today we will hear the testimony of Pauline Kayitare Mukairanga, the genocide survivor. We will then have a speech from Dr. Francis Godrot, a friend of Rwanda. After that speech, we'll have another poem by Yvonne Tuyizele, student at the United Arab Emirates University. Then the Executive Director for National Unity, Ethos and Citizenship Education, the Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Kairangwa Anita, will join us virtually for this event. We will hear then the speech from the guest of honor, His Excellency Khalid Al-Rashid, the elect in charge of Africa in Mosaic. We will have a concluding remarks by His Excellency Emmanuel Hategeka, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the UAE. Rwanda's history, it's dark, as I said. There are a lot of stories to learn. That's why at the end, we will conclude with a photo display. As you can see on the wall, you will have the opportunity to go through and read the history. Without further ado, may I invite Pastor Ridi to guide us through the prayer. Then after Pastor Ridi, we will have Abdullah Habu Karangwa also to prayers in Arabic for also those people believing in Islam. Lady, the floor is yours.
I request us all to stand. If you can, thank you. God, we come before you this day. We thank you that you have gathered us here, Rwandans, the friends of Rwanda, as we remember, as we unite and renew. We ask you, God, to give us the grace. Give us the grace to forget and to have our hearts healed and our lives happy. We pray for this occasion. We pray for all the testimonies. We pray that even as Rwandans, we should look and not only regret what happened, but rejoice that it shall never be again. That we shall not see it again. Our children will never see it again. So we thank you today. We commit this time and moments into your hands, God. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اجعل جمعنا جمعنا مرحوما واجعلنا تفرقنا من تفرقا مرحوما. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم احفظنا من حفظك، اللهم احفظنا من حفظك التي تحفظ فيه الصالحين، اللهم اجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين، اللهم ارحم موتانا وارحم موتى المسلمين، اللهم احفظنا في أمن والأمان في هذا المكان. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for the prayer. While we are still standing, may we please observe 1 minute of silence in honor of the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Thank you. You can have your seats. As I mentioned at the beginning of this event, there is a hope. Rwanda managed to rebuild itself 28 years ago because of hope. There is light. There is light that the young generation has been carrying. This time, let us proceed with lighting the commemorative candles. The protocol will guide us, but I will request Ambassador, together with the dignitaries at the high table, to proceed with the lighting of commemorative candles. The protocol will help you.
दे दिया। हाँ ओके, वही दे दो, वही दे दो। वही रहे पक्का वही रहे। ऐसा यही दे देना, यही दे देना।
After dignitaries on high table lighting the commemorative candles, we will have other group of people. The protocol will help us so that we light the 28 candles. They symbolize 20 years ago, the 20 years of commemoration of 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. May the protocol continue to help people light the candles.
मेरा ही दे रहा है। उल्टा हो गया। अच्छा ओके यार Saadiyat was. इसको दिखा, इसको दिखा, जो बात कर रहा है उसको दिखा। मैं है उसमें फ्रेम में? Sahi in the frame, Sahi in the frame. हाँ जी, दे दो उसका, मेरा दे दो। हाँ ओके।
May we have other people join to light the remaining candles. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this lighting of commemorative candles. As I said, there is hope, there is light. The present is good, and the future is much more promising. In 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda was totally destroyed to the core. The reconstruction has been a daunting task, a daunting journey, but a lot has been achieved. There are many people to talk about what I'm saying. That's why I invite you all to follow now a short video about Rwanda's reconstruction journey.
Abanyarwanda mwaritanze mwiyemeje guhangana n'ibyo byose murangije mutanga n'imbabazi uko kwitanga kwanyu ni impano itagira uko ingana mwahaye igihugu cyacu ni n'imbuto yavuyemo u Rwanda rushya ndabashimira.
Mu muryango wanjye nige warokotse jyenyine kwa data bamasenge nta numwe bamarume bakoze amarorerwa imyaka bagasahura ibyo mu nzu bagasahura twasigaye n'imyenda barasahura nambitswe n'inkotanyi zinsanze mu gihuru ndazishimiye pe mu by'ukuri Imana yakoresheje inkotanyi zihagarika genocide umuntu yibaza yahitagamo gupfa byari biturutiye kubaho pe gupfa byari biturutiye kubaho.
Uwo munsi barasamo hano tumaze gutarura abakomeretse naragiye umubiri wanjye wose guhera hano kubera ko twari twagiye duterura abantu bakomeretse mu ntoki wuzuyemo amaraso no ku maboko nawe narose we ntushobora no kurashisha imbunda mwereka ntushobora no kurashisha imbunda ngo ubwire bariya ko muri hano arambwira ngo abimbwira mu cyongereza ngo it's not part of our mandate ngo umurimo dufite ubu ngo mu nshingano dufite ibyo kurasana n'abariya ntabwo birimo. Nibuka yuko abo barimo kundasa n'abasirikare b'igihugu cyanjye ndaraswa n'abasirikare bagombaga kundinda nta mpamvu yo gushyira ikimwaro ku munyamahanga waje kwikorera amafaranga si we wari ushinzwe kundinda. Uwari ushinzwe kundinda niwe urimo kundasa. Imbunda twamuguriye kuko njyewe nari umukozi natangaga imisoro. Imbunda z'imisoro yanjye zagombaga kundinda nizo zirimo kundasa.
Ku itariki 16 naje kubona umukecuru umwe n'umwana, noneho mwambura igitero, ari kumwe n'abandi basirikari, hari aho bansanze ndiho ngenda, noneho ubwo babantwaye mu modoka, turi mu modoka tugeze ahantu dusanga igitero kiri kumwe n'umuntu, bamuzengurutse bagiye kumwica. Mubambura mbabwire ko ari bamundekera nkajya kumwicira. Ngira amahirwe hafi aho ngo hari ibintu by'ibihuru, hari masaha y'ikigoroba, ndamujyana mugeza muri bya bihuru, nyamwereka ahantu yihishe, nabwo nditsindi bukwice. Nubwo namwambaye maze kubiza ko ndi bumwice, ariko twamaze kugera hirya ndamuganiriza, mubwira ko abantu bajyanye Burundi kandi ko bamaze kugerayo. Ndamuganiriza, mbese aza gutuza mu ikizere cy'uko ndibuze kumujyana i Burundi kandi ari bugereyo. Naje kwamukora nimugoroba nko masaha moya, rero umukecuru kumwe n'umwana bajyana i Burundi.
Harimo abantu bashaka kuyobya uburari bakavuga ngo nimubabarire kandi mwibagirwe. To forgive is not to forget. Ntushobora kwibagirwa amateka yawe, ahubwo uyubakiraho ukirinda kuyatindamo, ahubwo kuko iyo nyatindamo ntabwo abana bari kwiga. Iyo nyatindamo nanjye ubwanjye ntabwo mba ndi ukundi.
Loin de se laisser aller au découragement, le Rwanda s'est employé à tirer les leçons de cette tragique phase de son histoire pour se relever, jeter les bases d'une société réconciliée avec elle-même et promouvoir son développement. Les résultats obtenus sont plus que remarquables.
Toute l'admiration du peuple belge pour le courage, pour la résilience, pour l'empathie, pour la force inaltérable du peuple rwandais qui depuis 25 ans a montré après ce drame sa détermination à chercher la lumière, à chercher à éclairer le chemin pour rendre la société plus robuste, plus solide et plus respectueuse.
And you forgave and you reconciled, and that has been a model for the rest of the world like no other nation has ever modeled forgiveness.
We have a responsibility to ensure that it never, ever happens again.
The body of Rwanda was tortured, was assaulted. The body succumbed, but the spirit never did. It is that spirit that should fight on, and that spirit will never and should never be defeated. That is within our reach and means. Let's go about our business. The business of returning and giving back to ourselves our dignity.
Rwanda's spirit never died. It was not defeated, and it will always prevail. The message in the video was very clear and it doesn't need any more interpretation. Let me now invite my brother Manisha Kajambosco to take us through the next phase of this commemoration event.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you. بعد الإبادات الذي حصل في رواندا من 1994 الروانديين كان في صقل جنسية، كان يريد المساعدة بأي مكان. ما وقفنا حتى قمنا بقوتنا حتى صقلنا لغتنا. الآن let me call open Uruyange for performance culture with the word of hope. إن شاء الله نتمنى الكلمة التي يتحدث فيها يجعلنا بما نفق في رواندا إن شاء الله بإذن الله. فليتفضل مشكورا. Uruyange performance, please. You're welcome.
twakundaga bazira uko bavutse. Ntiwibagirwe, ntiwibagirwe, oya ntiwibagirwe, kwibuka abacu n'ingenzi. Dushyire hamwe twibuke, twibuka abanyarwanda, abanyarwanda. Twibuke, twibuka abanyarwanda, abanyarwanda. Inkovu n'ibikomere abarokotse dufite nk'igihango cy'amateka meza dufitanye n'inkotanyi zidahwema kwita ku ncike n'imfubyi zarokotse jenoside yakorewe abatutsi ubu izuba ryaratse. Dushyire hamwe twibuke, twibuka abari mu Rwanda, abari mu mahanga. Twibuke, twibuka abari mu Rwanda, abari mu mahanga. Rubyiruko ni Rwanda rw'ejo, twirinda abagoreka amateka n'abapfobya jenoside, tubarwanye tutizigama. Dushyire hamwe twibuke, twibuka abari mu Rwanda, abari mu mahanga. Twibuke, twibuka abari mu Rwanda, abari mu mahanga.
The genocide against Tutsi was not planned overnight. It was planned for years. Therefore, we must work hard, very hard, to fight against those delaying genocide. So let never again be and again.
inzirakarengane nduteze na rimwe kuzabibagirwa. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
I remember not because my eyes saw it, but because my ear heard the sad story of my family. I remember the family I lost before even I knew them. I mourn my childhood I didn't get because my family were robbed their happy life. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Mpore Rwanda, kubona amata itagira amata, yuzuye amarira n'agahinda, abagiye mbere yuko tubamenya, icyuho cyanyu tukibona buri munsi. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Ihorere Rwanda. En 1994, il n'y en avait aucun espoir. Aujourd'hui, la lumière rayonne dans cet endroit. Il s'agit de respecter notre passé et de le garder vers l'avenir. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Imhore Rwanda. More to those who remember without memories. More to those who were raped and left to die but survived. Mothers, innocent young ladies, children, you are always in our heart. Imhore Rwanda, twibuke twiyubaka.
Ubuto bwari ku butoni turi kumwe namwe. Amashami mwasize yarashibutse. Yashibutse agoye, yashibukanye ishyaka ryo kusikiva mwasize. Aho muri tuzahora iteka tubibuka. Twibuke twiyubaka.
Tuzi neza imbaraga urubyiruko rwakoresheje mu gusenya u Rwanda, kandi tuzi cyane imbaraga urubyiruko rwakoresheje mu guhagarika jenoside. Iki ni cyo gihe cyacu urubyiruko rwa none ngo twibakire u Rwanda twifuza ruzira jenoside n'ingengabitekerezo yayo. Tuzaraga abazadukomokaho. Twibuke twiyubaka.
We remember with the purpose, with dignity, and save the lions, ensuring that what happened will never happen again in our country. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Rwanda komera, komera ntore y'Imana, uraba intwari, inabu yitsindisha ineza. Humura komera, ukomeze n'abandi, wimakaza ubupfura n'urukundo mu bantu. Haranira kubaho, ejo hazaza ni heza. Twibuke twiyubaka.
Umuvugo bahorana ku mutima. Uko imyaka ishira niko ndushaho kubakumbura. Uko ibirori bibaye ndushaho kubazirikana, kuko ndaranganya amaso simbabone mu byicaro byanyu mukwiye. Njye nikanga mbahamagara nkibuka ko mwagiye ahacecekerwa. Iyo nsabwe n'ibyishimo ndatwarwa nkaza ngo dukubita agatwenge nkibuka ko mwigendeye. Iyo nsabwe n'ibyishimo ndatwarwa nkaza ngo dukubita agatwenge nkibuka ko mwigendeye. Iyo agahinda kansaritse mbakeneye ngo mumpumurize, amanshonsa arushaho kundenga kubwo kubabura. Hari igihe mba ndyamye nkabakaba nkasanga narotaga. Binyereka ko nubwo babishurwa agashinyaguro nta gishobora guca umurongo uduhuza. Ntidusangiye isano y'amaraso gusa, ahubwo duhurira ku ndangagaciro n'amateka bidashobora gutsembwa n'ubuhiri, amahoro, imihoro, amasasu n'ibindi. Bimwe muri mwe bamwe muri mwe mbibuka mu bikezi, nshakisha amasura yanyu sinyashyikire, ariko urukundo mbafitiye rukandenza agasozi k'agahinda nkisanga twahuje urugwiro. Ariko urukundo mbafitiye rukandenza agasozi k'agahinda nkisanga twahuje urugwiro. Nibuka ko ubwo twabaga twizihiwe mu birori nkarushaho kubakumbura. Turirimbo sogokuru yaturirimbiraga. Njya nibaza ijambo muba mwarambwiye iyo babica turi kumwe. Urukumbuzi rukarushaho kundenga, rushaho gushenguka iyo nibutse ko bamwe muri mwe ntarababona ngo mbashingure mu cyubahiro. Agahinda kakarushaho kunzonga. Ninjye wa mukobwa mwasize ngimbuka, nararokotse mu buryo butangaje. Ubu narashatse kandi narashibutse. Ndi umubyeyi uhekeye u Rwanda. Babicanyi batsinzwe uruhenu, kandi ababatsinze nibo baturokoye. Inkotanyi zatwomoye ibikomere, ziraduhumuriza, zica iteka jenoside itazongera ukundi. U Rwanda rwavutse bushya, rufite ijabo n'ijambo mu ruhando mpuzamahanga, urumuri rw'icyizere cy'ubudaheranwa n'urukumbuzi rutuma mbibuka ubudasiba. Twibuke twiyubaka.
It was hard for what they are saying. بعد الظلمات الذي حصل من 1994 في رواندا ما وقفنا أن نقوم بوقتنا على بلد بلدتنا. كانوا كثير من أولادهم ماتوا هم لسه الصغار. بعد القتال الذي حصل في رواندا من 1994 قمنا بقوتنا حتى نحصل على المكان الذي وصلنا في العالم. لذلك لا نتمنى أن نوقف من هنا حتى نوصل لا يوصل إلى بلد آخر. قالوا حتى لو ركبنا فوق حجر على أولادنا قلنا لا نوقف حتى نوقف كل الإبادات جمعية في أي مكان. They say many words in their performances of hope by saying that, but 1995 genocide, what happened in Rwanda, it was darkness. But we didn't never stop our hope. We got up and built our country as long as we can. And it will never, it's 28 years now, we remember what happened in our country. But we won't stop until we stop everywhere genocide. Never, never again. It will never be happening until we're still standing. Even if we are only one country, we can change the world by stopping genocide. Together, we can. Let me call upon this time Mrs. Poise Kaitana, who was in genocide, to tell us through alive what happened in genocide. Mrs. Pauline Kaitare, هو يكلمنا مع عثرة في ظلمات 1944 في رواندا إن شاء الله. فأستفاد مشكورا.
His Excellency, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda, here in UAE, Emmanuel Hategeka, honorable guests, dearest friends of Rwanda, compatriots who are here today, dear brothers and sisters who shared the same history of the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. Good evening, all. Thank you. Yeah. I take this time to thank my embassy for inviting me here today. I'm truly and deeply grateful for being here at this 28 years commemoration of our beloved families. Hopefully, by me standing here in front of you, it will give you an insight of what more than 1 million Tutsi endured over 100 days between April and July 1994. My name is Pauline Kaitare Mokairanga. I am 42 years old. I am married. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 12 and 7 years old. I have been living here in Dubai for that last 6 years with my family. We are staff members of Emirates Airline. For those who knows for sure, Emirates pilots' wives who came with me here, you know for sure it's a completely different life than the one I grew up in Rwanda. For me, I embrace every single opportunity this country, UAE, is offering to all of us. I was born in Rwanda, in the west of the country. The place is known as Kibuye. Now it's called Karongi, to a modest and loving family. My mom was a teacher in Mugonero, Gishita, and then she became a social worker for our government in the commune, the region of Mabanza. My dad was a professional football player. Many love soccer, don't you? He played for the military team, and then he became a tax collector for our government. And he was working in the same place as my mom. They met there. They were in love. They had 6 children, me, my 3 brothers, and 2 sisters. We used to go to school every morning. My mom was a determined lady. My dad was a disciplined man. They would help us in our homework every evening. For me, in my of the little boy was of 13 years, I thought maybe the life was promising a good future. Then it comes 6 April 1994. In the night of 6 April, we heard on the radio of Miricolin that the president of the country, Habyarimana Juvenal, was killed in his airplane. I remember how my parents' faces changed in that minute as they called us to sleep all together. We were not used to sleep with our parents. They called us to sleep all together. In the night, I remember people were screaming outside, Kinani, Kinani. Kinani, which was a nickname of the president Habyarimana Juvenal, who was killed in the airplane. My house was in the corner of 4 streets. There was a coffee bistro, a market. People used to sing when they were happy, of course, or shout. We could hear them perfectly. That evening, that night, we didn't sleep. When we woke up in the morning, we saw the Tutsi of Gisenyi, our neighbor district, marching in our village. One of the Tutsi, John, came into my house and he told us that the Tutsi of Gisenyi and the Ruhengeri district were killed in the same night of 6 April 1994. We didn't know what to do. We stayed at home. During the day, we would see the smoke all over the mountains. We will learn on the radio of Millie Colleen again that the Interahamwe, the youth groups, the young generation who were trained by the government in the previous years were burning all the Tutsis' house in the entire country. My mom would take a decision that we should hide all of our belongings to the Hutu neighbors. Later in the evening, my grandma, Purusikira Mukandanga, she was living 2 miles away than my house. She came to check on us. I would see my grandma entering in one of the rooms with my mom. They would talk for long. After that meeting, I was called in the same room, and my mom, who were a sweet, who never talked about the politics, she would explain to me what is going in the country. She would talk with purpose and tell me, Pauline, it's not the first time that the Tutsi are killed in the country. They were killed in 59. They were killed in 73. They were killed every year from 90s. So remember something. You don't have the ID, which is mentioning that you are Tutsi. So it depends on how you will convince those killers. You go far away from house and you tell them you are like them. She ended saying that they don't have a right to kill me. It was complicated as situation. I am mom now. I don't know if I can tell it to my children. I can feel what she felt now. So she said I should also go with my grandma, Purusikira Mukandanga, and help her in case things get worse. My grandma had only 2 children, my mom and my uncle Naftali Niyitegeka, and Niyitegeka didn't have yet the children, and it was only me and my brothers and sisters. I was the eldest daughter in the family. So my grandma would grab my hand. We both turned our eyes to the family. We waved a goodbye. I went with my grandma. On my way, I was remembering, I have a vivid picture of my brothers and sisters. I remember every single of their dreams, like you here, your brothers, sisters, daughters, siblings. They all have their own dream too. For example, my eldest brother, Innocent Kairanga, he was 15 years. He dreamed to be a mathematician, but it was not a dream. He had the ability. He was also taken in the School of Art and Design of Gisenyi, which he refused. He knows what he wanted to do in his life. And then he was taken in the School of Buchumbi of Maths and Physics. I will come back later on all of my siblings, what happened to them, because that time we were separated. My family stayed in my home in Gatunda. I just went with my grandma. My grandma and I reached her home, a sweet home, which never missed the food for its guests. And one of our neighbor, Karemera, will come to visit. And Karemera will start to talk about the situation in the country. I will see my grandma stopping him, going in the kitchen, making food for us. My family never talked about politics in front of me. After the dinner, Karemera will go at home with his family. My grandma will heat the water, and she asked me to be washed, as she used to do when I was too little. At that time, I was 13 years. He was not washing me again. But that evening, she wanted to give me a bath. She washed me. She imbibed me in her own cream. For Rwandese people, you know it, ikimori. And then she handed me a pinje. We went to sleep in her soft bed. I slept like a baby in her arms, no dream. In the morning when I wake up, she was sitting in front of our bed, holding a bag, which she handed me and told me that I should go and hide in the bushes. I didn't know how to hide in the bushes. She said, "Your cousins are waiting in the living room." Savera was only 17 years. Eleda was only 15 years. Maria was only 11 years. And Dan, the little boy, was only 2 years. We went in Kinyonza Valley. We found a covered area, and we sit there. Kinyonza Valley was linked to the Lake Kivu. I wrote this big picture. Later you can have a look. Those are the mountains where we were hiding. There is no road. We needed just to walk in the high mountains. So we found the place in Kinyonza Valley which was linked to the Lake Kivu, and at the top of the mountain was my grandmother little house, together with the big house of my uncle Niyitegeka Naftar. He was a doctor. Between my mom and my uncle, there was 10 years difference. When my mom became a teacher in Mugonero, their dad passed away, and my mom took the decision to marry someone after she finished to educate his little brother, who became a doctor. She was really proud of his brother. So that huge house were there for us to use. My uncle Niyitegeka Naftar was not married yet. My brother and sisters, we will go to the Lake Kivu, play, swim, replay, with imagination that the little kids can just only have. My uncle, he was the best uncle ever. He will take us every time in the hospital where he was working. He was so proud of my mom. Hospital of Congo Nili, Murunda, everywhere. Around 10 o'clock, sitting in that valley, we will see the Interahamwe, the youth groups trained by the government, reaching my uncle's house. They will take the roof tiles, they will take the doors, they will take the window, they will fight amongst them for the furnitures in my uncle's house. The rest they will destroy. They will try to knock the walls, but it was concrete, it was impossible. But take time. Try to visualize. 7 years ago, 15 years ago, 11 years ago, 13 years ago, me, 2-year baby boy, sitting in the covered area of the valley, watching, waiting, without knowing what would be our fate, how bad it would be. I'm pretty sure now with the history, you know how bad it would have been if we were founded that day. Watching them, fighting for the furniture. Can you imagine that? After taking everything in my uncle's house, Naftar Niyitegeka, they will do the same in my grandma's house. That morning, my grandma, Pruskira Mukandanga, she didn't want to come with me. It was my responsibility to take care of her as my mom asked for. But she refused to come with me. Those Interahamwe, the youth group, they founded her. She was not hiding either. They surrounded her. They started to beat her with their sticks, like baseball sticks. Where we were sitting, it was not far. My grandma were beaten by them, but no sound, just silence. No fear, just resistance. I don't know where that bravery came from, but for me, it was my grandma who just fed me and washed me not more than 8 hours before. What to say here? I think she wanted to send me in this world knowing that I was loved, cared for. That if I survived, and I survived, that I could have some of this nature for my own children, my family, and all the friends I met after the genocide. We were in that Kinyonza Valley after they killed my grandmother, Prusikira Mukandanga. They went in her land. They took all of the bananas. They went in her farm. They took all animals. Everywhere, not only in my grandma's, all of the Tutsi who were in Ruhingo, they did the same. After that, we were chased everywhere on the mountain. For the next 2 weeks, we were tracked everywhere. They were bodies of Tutsi killed by those Interahamwe. We will hide in Kinyonza Valley. We will change the place, and everywhere on those mountains, we will try our best to survive. For those 2 weeks, we were hungry, we were tired, we wanted to go back home. But above all, I was angry to the government who was killing us. That was my life, my family, my country, which was rejecting us without knowing why. How they achieved that? It was done through 30 years of propaganda. Imagine the teacher who are supposed to teach our children. You have children. They were making roll calls, making stand all of the Tutsi children, making lists. Those lists were read out on the radio of Milicolin, naming all of the Tutsis' families. The call was for all of the Hutu to go to work. Work means to kill them all, from all the people to the new baby born. They were calling us our full names, like vermin. Imagine you here, being called somewhere on the radio Like, they were calling us cockroach, snakes, awful names, everywhere. The people who shared everything with us were listening to the government and finding us everywhere on the mountain, killing us. In the churches, Tutsi thought they would maybe have a fear of God, but not. It didn't work. They killed also in the churches. In the stadium, it was a complicated situation. My cousin and I were together. We were always hiding together, but I can imagine people who have children. 2 years old baby boy was hiding with us. He was tired, hungry, he was crying. He wanted to go back home. He was asking for food. It comes out the big sister, because they were one family, they asked if we can even hide the little baby boy alone. I said, no, he will be found, or he will walk into the killers and be killed. The only thing I have for Dan was my grandpa's stories. I will tell those stories of my grandpa, a lullaby to him, and he will calm down. And for the food, I will tell how they were looking. They had a kind of banana leaves around them, and I would put the same and go and find the raw sweet potatoes. We children of Rwanda, we didn't have food in the home. We need to survive with that. And then we'll have that, and she will calm down. I will tell him the story of my family, and he will calm down. It was raining a lot. In April, it's raining all the time. That rain was a benediction if it was the day, during the day. But in the night, it was slippery. It was very difficult. That rain will be also the life source for us. We didn't have water to drink. The killer, during the day, if it was raining, they will go back home and retreat to kill us. We will find the banana leaves to collect water and drink. Later, one of neighborhood will tell us that it is impossible to hide in our place because they were coming to kill everyone on those mountains. So he said there was two places. Either we needed to go to Besesero or to go to Nyamunini, the island. You could see the picture there later. So every evening, we were in this group. we were meeting in my uncle's house, the ruined house, to get the news. We were in small groups. So the group split in two. The people who knows to swim will go to Nyamunini, and the others will go to Bisesero. My cousin Danny, he didn't know how to swim, so we chose to go to Bisesero. Bisesero, it was the only place where Tutsi were standing still standing, and not accepting the government to kill them by laying down. They were fighting as they can to just how I can explain that. I'm proud of them. They were fighting with nothing. A government who has military police, forces, the Interahamwe, the youth group, they were fighting with nothing. So it was like 35 miles to get there. We sat in the night. We walked like 20 miles. We didn't reach. We arrived on the one of the mountain called Rubengera, a little bit up. And one of the lady in Rwanda during the genocide were denouncing Tutsi. She screamed. All the Interahamwe started running behind us. I was taken first. They were beating me. Others were running everywhere. Or the Tutsi who were with me. I don't know where that energy come from. I remembered the word of my mom. I started screaming at them, those killers. No, don't touch me. I'm a Hutu like you. It worked. They said, go on the side. We will talk with you after. So they were running behind my cousins, Ereda, Saver, Dan, Maria, who hid more than 2 weeks with me. They will die on that mountain of Sakinyaga near Rubengera. And the others who were with us. After they came to me and asked, where were you going? Why were you with those Tutsi? I tried to respond to them as I can. I was saved by the last device of my mom, or saved by God. Or it's the faith. They said, I can't continue where I was going. They said, go back to where you come from, and if you are Tutsi, you will be killed there. I was tired. I didn't want to hide anymore. Desolation, maybe. Isolation. Alone. No parents, no friends who were hiding with me. I was done with hiding. I started walking among those killers. No fear. I was done. I didn't care if they can kill me. Enough is enough. I decided to go back where I felt loved. I went in Mataba, le centre de gravité de ma famille, the center where they were all of my uncles. I reached there, all of my uncles, they were too many, were all killed in the stadium of Gatwaro. Their houses were destroyed. No one. On the road back, because I had to walk 20 miles, there were body and bodies, people who were killed near the Lake Kivu, everywhere. After Mataba, I decided to go to my house to see if my mom was there. I arrived in Gatunda, where I was born. There was no one. No my mom, no my brother and sisters. Everything destroyed. I couldn't recognize my house. And the Gatunda market, there were more than 5,000 Tutsi who were killed on that market. In front of my house. There I couldn't deny that I'm Tutsi, but I didn't care if they gonna kill me. I was killed already. But physically, standing there, I decided to go in my grandma's house, Purusikira Mukandanga, who lived in Ruhingo, and to say goodbye to her before maybe I would be killed. I went there where they killed her. I said a proper goodbye. For me, it was important. It was important to tell her goodbye. I decided to go in the Lake Kivu and maybe try to reach Nyamunini. Nyamunini, it was far. It was like swimming more than 20 miles. It was impossible to swim to there. But I will try the first little island. You will see them on that picture. I received the 2 islands. Thank you to my father who taught me to swim. But what I didn't know, they were in Erahamwe patrolling the water. I would see them coming to me in their boat. They were behind the other island. They will reach. I wish no one to see their red eyes and their hatred in their eyes. It was something I never saw in my country. They had those amahiri. It's a kind of baseball stick. They were putting the screws in the size. When they smash our head, it was completely finished. I will see them. From far, I will scream at them with all of the energy I have. Don't touch me. I'm like you. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. Which trouble? I don't know where the energy comes from. Those killers will pick me up in their boat where they were killing my people and bring me to one of the other islands, the 3rd one. They will say, okay, stay there. I just lied. I was going to find the food and, yeah, making a story. they went in Kayove. We were in Ruhingo, near to my grandma's place. And it's a chance because they didn't know me. If they were the killer from my grandma's house, my grandma's place, they will know that I'm Tutsi. But they were coming somewhere, they didn't know me. So they will let me on that island. But when you think everything is finished, it's not finished. They were a man who knows my grandma. He called me, Pauline, is that you? And that man was a Tutsi. He said, wait until those killers are gone. We're gonna go together to Nyamunini Island. He had a little boat he was hiding. And we waited until 10. He came and he said, now it's clear, let's go. On the, in the water going to Nyamunini Island, he told me, you know what? Your father is on that island. My father, I thought he was killed in the beginning. He was there, the hope. I found my father. His name is Kwibuka28. He's still living. I can't talk about him now, otherwise it's too long. But he had his own journey, and it was not very easy. But we have each other. He have me. He always come and see the little children here in Dubai. We can go in the mall of Emirates and grab an ice cream. Life is going on. So, on that island of Nyamunini, it was not possible to stay because the killers were coming to kill everyone. So we had to move. One of the wealthy man, Gasavubu, he had the cows on that island of his parents. He paid Abashi in the Congo part. Abashi came, took the cows, and we all went together with those cows. We were saved in Congo. The other side. On the picture you can see, the Congo where we were. Later, like 1 month and a half, RPF, together with His Excellency Paul Kagame, covered the whole country. They stopped the genocide. We were able to come back in our country. The one thing we had in our mind was to go to my village and see if my mom survived or my brother and the sisters. So we are talking around 4 July 1994. We went into our village and we found out like 1 million Tutsi who were killed. My mom, Felista Mukabagina, was killed at the age of 40. She was killed by Amoni, a guy who was praying with her. We found out that My brother, Innocent Kairanga, was killed near the same place as my mom. And those young generation, youth groups, they didn't kill him properly. They were torturing him, asking how a brain of a mathematician is look like. All of those details were given to us. We found out that my brother, my second little brother, Karangwa Joseph, 11 years, was cutted by their machetes and thrown in the Lake Kivu. We found out that my first little sister, Josephine Wamahoro, was not killed properly. They cutted her. They let her bleeding for more than 2 weeks walking in the village. We found out that my second little sister, Uwishimwe Seraphine, 7 years, together with my little brother, the last one, Kyamatare Patrick, 3 years old, were killed together at our primary school of Rusororo. We found out that my uncle, the funniest one, the doctor, Niyitegeka Naftar, was killed near the capital city of Kigali. He was there to buy the medicine for the hospital. That time he was working in Nyanza, and he thrown in the Nyabarongo River, telling him that he needs to go back where he came from. But he was Rwandese, like others. I'm sorry to give all of those details. And I am not here to make you sad. I want you not to feel sorry for me. I want you to help where you can, if it's possible, to the other people who can be in need. In 2009, my father and I, we were able to bury all of my family in Matava. They may rest in peace. I wrote a few things. I was attacked many times, but it is not important. What is important is that I survived. I could not stand here before you and be the person who has the strength to not just survive, but to live with love and hope without my family. I source all my strength from my grandfather, Ruhago, my mom, my family. The love they gave me was enough, even if it was ended at 13 years. That love brought me everywhere in the world. I spent 10 years in Paris by myself in that nice country. I got French nationalities on my own. That passport who can help me to travel the world. I spent 10 years in Brussels. And now 6 years in Dubai. I never forget how important our family are. They are a part of us. All the Tutsi of Nyamunini and I, we were all passengers together on those boats with cows and fishes. These days, no matter who I sit near in the economy or Emirates business class, because I do, I guarantee you the smell is better than the fish ones. However, those cows saved our life. My last mom advice, this advice is a part of the reason I can tell you the Tutsi history today. Tell them you are Hutu is the title of the book I wrote in Europe in 2011. Many schools, university, association invited me to deliver my testimony. Many television invited me to talk in their place. I recall Laura Adler, a journalist of France, an amazing lady. As she held my hand tightly and telling me those words I want to share with you. I got you, Pauline Kaita. I read you in one night, as I couldn't sleep without knowing what's happened next. Today, I invited you so the million of French citizens can read and know about your story and the rest of the world. I cannot explain to you in words how much that lady supporting me, encouraging me, gave me also too much hope and the strength to continue my day on this path. Today, I'm standing here in the hope that I can encourage or inspire even one of the person here in this room to reach out, to touch someone else's life. Be the hope. Help where you can. We can all make difference. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming to be with us.
Thank you very much, Pauline, Ms. Pauline, for the courage to share your testimony of what you went through, but also your story of resilience. Rwanda's reconstruction was a result of the choices made by the government of unity and the choices made by the Rwandan people, as you heard in the video and even the testimony. But also we recognize the contribution of Friends of Rwanda who have been there 20 years ago to support Rwandans throughout the journey of reconstruction. Allow me now to invite Dr. Francis Godrot, friend of Rwanda, professor at Zayed Military University, Lab and Academy, international consultant and an associate researcher at University of Ottawa's Center of Governance, to deliver his speech today.
Thank you. Good evening, Excellencies, Ambassador Hatakeka, honorable officials. Well, it's really hard to speak after such a testimony. Nothing make any sense after such stories. So, well, today I was asked by Ambassador Hatakeka to have a small speech here as a friend of Rwanda, and I was thinking, what can I talk about, right? So I thought about why I'm a friend of Rwanda, the amazing qualities, because I learned about Rwandans as a Canadian with the Rwandan diaspora, with the Rwandan communities, and I really enjoyed everything that I've learned about this community, right? So I was just thinking, what can I say about Rwandans? And I was just thinking about when I moved here in UAE, some of my friends, because I was living with my family in Rwanda for something like 4 or 5 years. And then I moved here, and some of my friends called the ambassador, and he said, hey, my friend Francis is coming. Maybe you can say hello and welcoming. And as soon as I moved here, I think I reached the airport and I received a call from ambassador, just telling me, hey, how are you doing? I just wanted to welcome you. And for the first month, I think every day I was receiving calls and just welcoming, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Was coming to pick me up to have a round of golf together, and and I was just thinking about it. I was saying this is typical Rwandan hospitality, and I think this is what's so amazing. So we've been talking about the Kwibuka, the commemoration of genocide against Tutsis. But I think what's absolutely amazing is Rwanda's rebirth, right? Rwanda's miracle. So it's one thing to live something so hard, but it's the way you stand up after that's so amazing. We heard the story. Imagine just coming here and talking about how your family was killed. This takes so much courage, and really, I think that's what must be tell about, really. So yes, hospitality, but the resilience of the Rwandan people. So after a few years, I can also tell you about hospitality, about the welcoming nature of the Rwandan people. When I moved, when I was younger in Canada, I was moving because of my family my parents moving from different towns, different provinces, right? And I ended up in a city, in Quebec City, okay? And in this city, I was new, and you know, I was something like 16, and it's really hard for a 16 years old. Nothing hard as what we just heard, but you know, 16 years old, moving to different cities. So I was trying to find friends, and who's the first people who came to see me? It's a group of Rwandan who came and just welcomed me. Up to today, they're still my best friend. And a few years after, I ended up marrying a Rwandan woman, which also maybe explain why I'm a friend of Rwanda. But you know, from day one, I was going to those events. I was helping in organizing Kwibukas in the past 15 years in Canada. So I just wanted to really talk about this welcoming nature, which is so important, and the fact that when you go to Rwanda, the first time I went to Rwanda, I was so shocked. I was asking the people I was living, where I was living in their house, I was thinking, how can you do that? Like to live with the people who killed you, basically. They said to me, you know, see this family there, after the genocide, we could see them walking in the streets with our clothes that they stole from us. So we had to live with it, and you know, that's life, and they just moved on. So just imagine that courage, that resilience. It's not like a war when the loser just leave. No, they're still there. So this resilience, I think, is really something amazing. And if we talk about the country itself, right? What I call the Rwandan miracle, just like we tell about the East Asian miracle, the ability to be able to develop the country after this. How many countries are failed state after such an event? So in Rwanda, I think we should really talk about the Rwandan people and the Rwandan governance, the leadership, which is really inspiring. So if you travel to Kigali, for instance, you stay there for 3 months, you can see the difference, the development. In 3 months, the city will change. It's different. So this I think is really amazing. And so I just wanted to thank you all, the people, the friends of Rwanda who are here in the Rwandan, just for being so inspiring, because it's really important, such inspiring stories. So at the end, I think what's really important, and the reason why we're doing this today, the commemoration of genocide against Tutsi after 28 years, is because there's still a fight against different narrative. So there's still, sometimes I stop looking on Twitter and social media because I look at some university professors in Belgium and other countries who are basically trying to say that the Tutsis are not victims. It's not them, it's another group, and you know, I don't want to get into details of this, but this kind of fake narrative, it's very important that we fight this. And I think that's one, we remember the lost soul, the 1 million Tutsis killed, but it's really important to also make sure that the real stories, just like the one we heard, is heard. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and I hope you have a good rest of the evening.
كان وقت حزينة وبكاء حتى أنصرنا الله تبارك وتعالى برواندان Patriotic Front بقيادة الرئيس His Excellency Paul Kagame. It was the time of sorrow and cry until God provided us with the lead of Rwandan Patriotic Front and the lead of His Excellency Paul Kagame, which comes only to unite Rwandans by saying that only we are one person, one people. كما ذكرنا الله بتبارك وتعالى في مقام تنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم بخبير. RPF led by His Excellency Paul Kagame came only with one purpose, as Allah reminds us in the Quran by saying that, "O people, we created you into one man by different ethnics. The reason was only to know each other. The remaining, the good person is which one doing good in the law." Allow me to call upon Miss Yvonne, who gives us a poem of hope for what happened, the time which she was not even yet born. Please, fatafadhal mashkurani ya Habib.
The greatest of all. Here is the profound mystery I was taught by my ancestor. He said, "Your youth is a gift from God. The time will come when it will be taken away from you, and you'll be held accountable of what you have done with it. By your will, you'll be a hero. By your courage, you do exploits. And if you choose cowardness, you'll be ineffectual. This is your inheritance, my child. Be of importance. Hearken to my instructions. I have seen kingdom after kingdom. But this I speak, had it not existed. Rwanda was full of splendor, love, and peace, until when darkness was allowed to prevail. The 1994 genocide in Rwanda had a name to exterminate all Tutsis and were executed with ferocity, which resulted in rivers of blood, the flame, 1,000 hills covered with bodies, forests were filled with echoes of crying babies, the mourning murders and desperate men. That time, the handiwork of evil was on great display. Knowing of this terrible history happened, let not the past be your master. Traumatism cannot intimidate your thoughts. Sadness should not be your flag, and misery should not be your motto. My child, you're an era of improvement, person of value and dignity. The greatest of all, keep remembering not to harbor hatred, but unite and reconcile to create a better future, to defeat division and exclusion while renewing our reason for loving our nation. Turumge. Rwanda invites the whole world to side with us to proclaim peace and unity. Thank you. My name is Yvonne Tizere, final year student in architecture engineering at United Arab Emirates University. Let's remember, unite, and renew. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne, for your poem. The involvement of the youth in the reconstruction of Rwanda is very paramount. Joining us now is Kairangwa Anita, Executive Director for National Unity, Itorero and Citizenship Education in the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement in Rwanda. She joins us virtually to deliver her remarks.
Greetings from Kigali and the Ministry of National Unity and Citizenship Engagement. Let me start with a word of comfort to all Rwandans, the world in general, and specifically survivors who at this time have to revisit their dark history. Humura ntugipfuye. We chose to be united, or twahisemo kuba umwe is our theme today. It is a deliberate choice, and believe me, not an easy one. Yes, the logical thing would have been to remain separated forever. What does a country do after losing over 1 million of people at the hand of fellow human beings? What does a country do when it is left with many widows and raped women at the hand of countrymen? What does a country do when it is left with child-headed families and children born out of rape? Against all odds, we chose to be united. Twahisemo kuba umwe. However, all this has a genesis. Before colonization, Rwandans were united. Though disputes occurred from time to time, there was no time when one group stood up to exterminate the other. Rwandans considered themselves brothers and sisters. They called themselves sons and daughters of Kanyarwanda. They shared the same language, culture, religion, history. They had the same king, and they shared the same values and taboos and defended them relentlessly. Many of the values were taught in Itorero, a traditional Rwandan school before the colonization. Values of patriotism and heroism made Rwanda a respected country in the region. Participants of Itorero also learned good social relationships, which boosted the national unity. Then the colonizer came. Colonial rule have three things in common. It oppresses the nationals, loots their properties, and demonizes them. It always tries to change the mentality and beliefs of colonized people, leading them to lose their values, rights, and most importantly, their identity. The first colonizers were Germans who arrived in 1900 and were replaced by Belgians in 1916 after World War I. Once in Rwanda, colonizers destroyed the foundation of Rwandans' unity and values. They abolished Itorero, harvest ceremony, umuganura, and administrative institutions such as the esoteric code, Ubwiru. They also removed the King Musinga from the throne, and if that was not enough, they forced him into exile. Colonizers and Catholic missionaries were of the view that Rwandans are different in terms of origin, settlement in Rwanda, physical features, beliefs, and culture. Of course, their only motive was divide and rule. In 1933, the colonizers introduced the identity card referred to by Banyarwanda as Ibuku, the book. The book had two elements. It indicated ethnic groups which showed the traditional clan, Abega, Abasinga, Ababanda, etc. It also introduced something called race, which had no meaning in Kinyarwanda. It is under race that they mentioned the so-called ethnic groups, Hutu, Tutsi, Twa. From 1959, political parties were created. The main ones were Parmehutu, Rader, Aprosoma, and UNAR. UNAR believed in immediate independence, while the remaining three wanted democracy first and were willing to let independence take a back seat for another 30 to 40 years. The colonizer supported the latter one. During the same year, Joseph Habyarimana Gitera, who created Aprosoma, wrote and published the 10 Hutu Commandments, which was full of hate speech towards Tutsi. This hate speech was backed by the then President of the First Republic, President Kayibanda, and other political leaders. Their speeches were based on the ideology that the country belongs to Hutu, that Tutsi are foreign invaders. The years that followed were characterized by repeated and orchestrated killings targeting Tutsi. The perpetrators were never punished, but rather rewarded and encouraged. When Rwanda acquired its independence on 1st July 1962, killings evolved to genocide, where in the northern part of Rwanda, that is in Byumba, more than 2,000 Tutsi were killed, and more than 20,000 Tutsi were killed in the south, that is in Gikongoro. As time went on, the genocide ideology reached another level. In 1973, Tutsi employees and students were chased from schools and places of work. They were also killed and forced into exile. It is in the midst of 1973 violences that Major General Juvenal Habyarimana took over power in a military coup on 5th July 1973. The Second Republic was not different from the first one. It openly taught hatred, discrimination, and divisions among Rwandans. When the Liberation War was launched in October 1990, this served as a pretext for a group of Hutu extremists under the so-called Hutu power to openly persecute and kill Tutsi. To get the massive adherence, the regime told the population that the invaders were Tutsi from Uganda in collaboration with Tutsi inside the country, that all of them wanted to reclaim power from Hutu majority and bring them back to monarchy and slavery. In that regard, any Hutu was sensitized about their real enemy. Extremist political parties and media outlets were all mobilized towards inciting Hutu to exterminate Tutsi. Here we can mention Kangura, RTLM, Echo de Milcoline, and many more. In addition to this propaganda, militia groups were trained to kill as they wait for what was to be the final signal. When the plane that was carrying the president was shot down under the instruction of Colonel Theoneste Bagosora, Tutsi were blamed for having killed the president. The genocide, which was long planned, started immediately. When the genocide was stopped by RPF Inkotanyi in July 1994, the government of Rwanda knew that no effort will lead to results if we lose focus. The national unity became our focus, and actually the government chose to be referred to as the government of national unity. The first building block was laid, and it was followed by many more initiatives to reinvent a new and united people. Structures and policies that are pro-unity were put in place. Here we can talk about equal access to public service, promotion of equity, transparency and accountability, promotion of patriotism and national values through Itorero, resettlement and reintegration of refugees, restorative and retributional justice, and the establishment of a non-discriminatory ID card. We also note the creation of pro-unity socio-economic programs like One Cow per Poor Family, commonly known as Girinka, Communal Works, Umuganda, to name but a few. As I move towards the end of this talk, I would like to mention that this work has not been easy. One of the challenges that we are facing as Rwandans is denial of genocide, its minimization, and its justification. In its preamble, the Constitution of the Republic of Rwanda stipulates that Rwanda is committed to preventing and punishing the crime of genocide, fighting genocide negationism and revisionism, eradicating genocide ideology and all its manifestations. Unfortunately, we still hear people distorting the truth about the genocide perpetrated against Tutsi in the name of what they view as freedom of speech, sustainable peace, human rights, and reconciliation. These people are in different categories, but they have one thing in common. Genocide deniers intend to rewrite history in order to demonize victims and rehabilitate perpetrators. We see them among people from all walks of life, including those who pretend to be human rights activists and intellectuals. Many of them do this under our watch in our respective countries. Let me conclude by sending a reminder that the UN Resolution number 2150 calls upon states that have not yet ratified or acceded to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide to consider doing so as matter of high priority and, where necessary, to enact national legislation in order to meet their obligations under that convention. Indeed, as Elie Wiesel said, genocide denial is a double killing. Deniers murder the dignity of survivors and seek to destroy remembrance of the crime. Let's all work together to make never again a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita, Executive Director for National Unity, Itorero and Citizenship Education in the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement in Rwanda. She took us through the history and how we really reached the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but also reminds the international community of the work we have to fight against the genocide, the denial, and also genocide ideology as mandated by the UN resolution. 28 years ago, as we said, Rwanda rebuilt itself thanks to the partnership and the support of Friends of Rwanda, as we have said, but also, most importantly, by countries, friendly countries. And one of our friendliest country is the United Arab Emirates, our host. Allow me to welcome now His Excellency Khalid Al-Rashid, the Director in charge of Africa in UAE, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, to deliver his remarks.
Good evening. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the Rwandan Embassy for the invitation to join you all today on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in the 28th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I join you today to honor and remember those who lost their life in the genocide and show solidarity with the survivor who lost their family and friend during the genocide. We stand today in solidarity with the people of Rwanda in the hardest period in their history, which was caused by hate speech, discrimination, racism, and incitement to violence. Hence, I would like to confirm the UAE approach that seeks to spread the tolerance and reject all kinds of extremism and hatred. Let's honor the life lost in the genocide and stand against all kinds of hatred and discrimination that threaten the values of human rights, social stability, and societal peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your remarks. As we are leading to the end of this event, allow me to invite His Excellency Emmanuel Hategeka, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the UAE, to deliver his remarks of the day.
His Excellency Harid Rashid, Director of Africa at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Excellencies, ambassadors here present, representatives of international organizations, respected friends of Rwanda, members of the Rwandan community leaders who are here, dear compatriots, brothers and sisters, and I mean all those here, but also those following remotely from other countries in our jurisdiction. Mwiriwe neza, a very good evening. Allow me to start by thanking all of you who joined us today as we honor the memory of the 1 million people who were brutally killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. This is an evening of commemoration, and when we commemorate, when we remember our loved ones, and we have in our midst people like you who come to be with us during such a difficult period, we really appreciate and we honor you. We thank you for being with us this evening and for listening to our history, however dark it is. The 1 million people we talk about is not a statistic. These are names. These are people. There are faces to them, one by one. And they are just actually more than that. They were deprived of their right to live. They were deprived of their right in unimaginable ways in 100 days from April 7th, 1994. So this is a moment of reflection, sometimes where people run short of words because of the horrific memory of our dark past. For survivors who are here with us this evening and those following from outside, muhumure kandi mukomere. We all know the scars are still fresh, but your courage and resilience makes life possible again. We understand your pain and feelings, and we comfort and stand with you as we remember all those we lost in the darkest 100 days in Rwanda's history. The genocide against the Tutsi was a long history. It has a long history and reminds us of the failure of humanity and the total absence of the responsibility to protect those in need. The genocide against the Tutsi was planned, piloted, and sponsored by the government, and executed by all citizens of all categories, including professionals who were supposed to be life defenders. It is important to remember, but also to recommit to never again in ways beyond a mere slogan. The survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi made the biggest sacrifice of forgiving the genocide perpetrators who continue to live side by side in the same one country as one people. But that was for the sake of forging national unity and a better future for our whole country. We thank you. The testimony of Madame Pauline Kayitare Mukairanga and many others like her is an indelible reminder and evidence of what we went through. Subsequent physical and psychological scars still remain for life. The seed of divisionism and hatred that later contributed to the genocide against the Tutsi was planted by colonialists, but nurtured, unfortunately, by our own, by ourselves. So we're no better. And it was nurtured by the two successive regimes post-Rwanda's independence, as explained very well by Mrs. Kairangwa Anita, the Executive Director for National Unity, Itorero, and Citizenship Education at the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement. The genocide was not an accidental event, but rather a long-term evil plan tried for many years using the same tools, targeting the same group of people. Media fueled the execution, and citizens were incentivized with impunity to kill fellow citizens. We should condemn such acts and recommit to never seeing such atrocity in our midst in human history. It was the worst. During the 100 days, every day had its stories of horror. Execution intensified every month throughout the country, fueled by leaders and state media. Around this time, in the month of June, the government ramped up the execution of the genocide through the infamous program called Autodefense Civile across all provinces. Traders were ordered to buy their own guns and also arm citizens in order to step up the killings beyond the traditional tools they were using at the time. Specifically, the government meeting of June 20th, 1994, considered the rapid elimination of Tutsi across the country and launched Operation Insecticide, which started in Migogwe military camp. The use of the term insecticide was used to signify that people being exterminated were cockroaches. And they insinuated these people were not worth living and had to be killed using insecticide as they were equal to cockroaches. Around this day of 26th, in the month of June 1994, the Tutsi who were still alive were not sure of waking up breathing the next day. This was worse in Ibisesero, where Madame Pauline tried to cross for hiding. Ibisesero is in western Rwanda, where the genocidal government and its army concentrated efforts to exterminate the last living Tutsi. On that very day, 2,000 Tutsi were killed around the 27th of June in Ibisesero under the watch of the heavily armed foreign forces who were present in Operation Turquoise to actually supposedly create a humanitarian corridor. Throughout this period, the international community kept a blind eye and a deaf ear to the cries of Tutsi in Rwanda calling for help. Contrary to what was expected, the UN peacekeeping mission in Rwanda, UNAMIL, reduced its troops from 2,548 to just 270 at the climax of the genocide. That left the UNAMIL commander, General Romeo Delay, a Canadian, a very good Canadian commander, with his hands tied and unable to intervene. There are individuals and countries that showed courage and acts of humanity during the genocide against the Tutsi. Allow me to single out Captain Mbaye Diane, a Senegalese military observer at UNAMID, who even against the UNAMID mandate undertook many risky missions on his own initiative to save lives of civilians. He was killed by government forces on 31st of May in operation. Professor Gambari Ibrahim of Nigeria, Karel Kovanda of Czech Republic, and Colin Keating of New Zealand, all of them permanent representatives to the UN at the time. They warned the world that what was happening in Rwanda was a genocide and needed to be stopped. But the UN Security Council did not pay attention to their calls. We also recognize brave Rwandans and other foreigners that we all call protectors of Friendship Pact, abarinzi b'igihango, who displayed outstanding acts of courage and humanity during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. They saved thousands of lives, and their contribution continued to inspire Rwanda's reconciliation journey. These examples are evidence that what is called the international community could have done better at the time. Please allow me to take this moment to pay tribute to the brave men and women of the Rwandan Patriotic Front and Army, then led by our current president, His Excellency Paul Kagame, who risked their lives to stop the genocide on the 4th of July, 1994, after 3 months of gruesome war in the country. That day, that is marked annually as Rwanda's Liberation Day, is a day we take dear to our hearts. However, even if the government had been overthrown, the genocidal government, it was not a time to celebrate victory, given the daunting task of nation building that lay ahead. Post the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, Rwandans chose the path of reconciliation to forge a new beginning while ensuring that all those who committed the genocide do face justice. Rwanda's traditional courts, called Gacaca, tried close to 2 million cases in 10 years, starting from 2002. And other cases have been handled in Rwandan courts. This cannot be compared to the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, which concluded proceedings of only 83 accused over 21 years of service. However, the biggest persisting challenge is that of 1,147 genocide fugitives still roaming around the world scot-free. The real commitment to never again presupposes no impunity, meaning that countries should either try them in their countries or extradite them to Rwanda to face justice. The issue of justice was further emphasized by His Excellency President Paul Kagame during the 20th National Commemoration of the 1994 genocide on April 7th in Kigali, and I quote, "We are a small country, but we are big on justice. And some of those are big and powerful countries, but they are very small on justice." End of quote. Justice delayed is justice denied. Justice should apply to genocide fugitives, genocide deniers, and all those who conduct terrorist acts aimed at destabilizing nations, wherever they may be. Commemoration, as well as justice, is an international responsibility. On 20th April 2020, the UN General Assembly, confirming its decision 550 of 26th of January 2018, adopted a new resolution 273 that reaffirmed 7th April as the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. This was the first time the genocide was being called by its real name. The UN Resolution 2150 of 16th of April on threats to international peace and security calls upon states to commit to prevent and fight against genocide and other serious crimes against humanity under international law. States are therefore required to adopt laws penalizing the denial of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and all other forms of extremism and hatred. As we remember this dark history, we also reflect on Rwanda's reconstruction journey. The renaissance of our country 28 years later is a vast chronicle of forgiveness, people's resilience, and visionary leadership. This is because we were tested, deemed a failed state, torn into parts, but we refused to surrender and learned the hard way. As His Excellency President Paul Kagame said on 7th of April, and I'll quote, "These very hard and bad lessons should never be wasted. Every year that passes makes us stronger and better people." End of quote. Post-1994, Rwanda achieved remarkable growth. Our friend of Rwanda, Dr. Francis, who took the floor a few minutes ago, did mention what has been achieved as a witness. But I know most of you who have visited Rwanda and probably who had a chance to be in Rwanda in those early years can attest to the huge difference that you see. The country has remarkably grown. The country is safe and secure for everybody. Every child is entitled to free primary and secondary education. Citizens have access to improved health care with a universal health insurance system. There's no more divisionism. There's no more discrimination. Everybody is given equal opportunity. And millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. Rwanda has emerged as the best place to do business with an open visa policy, a preferred destination for global meetings and events, including the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that just concluded this week in Kigali. Our country also continues to play a leading role in peace building around the world, including in places like Mozambique, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Haiti, and others, for we understand best the cost of insecurity. To our youth, the genocide was stopped by courageous young men and women in uniform. Progressive leadership by the same young men and women laid a strong foundation for modern-day Rwanda under the leadership of His Excellency President Paul Kagame. Rwanda has embarked on a new 30-year journey towards Vision 2050 for a prosperous and dignified life for all citizens. Our youth today have taken up the challenge, and we call upon you, the youth, to uphold Rwandan values of resilience, of patriotism, of courage and integrity, to ensure that the Rwandan spirit prevails wherever you are, even in times of adversity. Allow me to say a few words in Kinyarwanda to my compatriots who are here. Banyarwanda, muteraniye hano, n'abakurikiye mu buryo bw'ikoranabuhanga, ndabashimira cyane kuba mwigomwe uyu mwanya kugira ngo twifatanye muri uyu mugoroba mu muhango wo kwibuka ku nshuro ya 28 Genocide yakorewe Abatutsi muri 1994 mu Rwanda. Mu by'ukuri byinshi nabikomojeho mu rurimi rw'amahanga kugira ngo abashyitsi bacu bifatanyije natwe basobanukirwe amateka yacu, kandi uruhare rwacu gukomeza gusobanura amateka yacu uko yabashaririye kose. Ibihe nk'ibi byo kwibuka biragoye cyane, ndetse ni n'umwanya wo kugira ngo aho muri hose dufate mu mugongo abarakotse muri bya bihe bikomeye, tubafashe mu mugongo kandi mumenye ko mutari mwenyine mu rugamba rwo kwiyubaka. Tubabwiye tuti mpore, Pauline na bagenzi bawe mpore. Tuzirikana kandi uburemere bw'imbabazi mwemeye gutanga mu kubaka u Rwanda rushya. Kwibuka Genocide yakorewe Abatutsi ni ngombwa mu rwego rwo kutibagirwa ibyabaye no kwirinda ko byasubira ukundi. Turashima kandi abahagaritse Genocide mu gihe amahanga yari yatereranye u Rwanda. Mu myaka 28 ishize hari benshi babonaga ko u Rwanda rutazongera kubyutsa umutwe ngo rweme. Gusa Abanyarwanda banze gutsindwa, ahubwo bigiye ku mateka asharira bubaka u Rwanda rushya, nk'uko nyakubahwa Perezida Paul Kagame yabigarutseho mu muhango wo kwibuka ku nshuro ya 28 Genocide yakorewe Abatutsi, aho yagize ati mu myaka 28 ishize, buri mwaka ushize utuma turushaho kuba abantu bazima, kugira ngo tube abo twifuza kubabo nitwe dukwiye guhitamo. Nta wundi ukwiye kuduhitaramo icyo twaba cyo cyangwa uko dukwiye kuba turiho. Ayo ni amagambo y'umukuru w'igihugu. U Rwanda nanone ruhagaze neza, aho tugeze ubu duhagaze neza, turakiyubaka. Inzira iracyari ndende, ariko aho tugeze ntabwo ari habi. Ubukungu burazamuka, igihugu gifite amahoro n'umutekano, abana bariga, abarwayi baravuzwa, abaturage baragenda bikura mu bukene umwaka ku wundi. Ubu u Rwanda ruza ku isonga mu korohereza abakora ishoramari mu Rwanda, ndetse n'igihugu cyafunguye amarembo kubagana u Rwanda nk'igihugu kigendwa kikararwa. U Rwanda rukomeje kuba ahantu heza hakirirwa inama mpuzamahanga zirimo na CHOGM ishojwe muri iki cyumweru turangije. Ibi ni ishema rikomeye ku Rwanda. Mu gutanga umusanzu mu kubaka amahoro, ingabo z'u Rwanda ziri mu butumwa bwo kubungabunga no kugarura amahoro hirya no hino ku isi. Abahagaritse Genocide bari urubyiruko. Urwo rubyiruko rwagize uruhare mu buyobozi bwiza, rwubaka umusingi ukomeye w'u Rwanda rushya rurangajwe imbere na nyakubahwa Perezida Paul Kagame. Ubu u Rwanda ruri mu cyerekezo gishya 2050, aho dufite intumbero yo kuba igihugu giteye imbere, abaturage bafite ubuzima bwiza kandi rwihaye agaciro. Urubyiruko rwa none rwitabiriye uwo mukoro. Ni nanone umwanya mwiza wo kubabwira ko muri uwo mujyo turasaba urubyiruko kurangwa n'ubumuntu mu bakoze jenoside harimo urubyiruko, harimo abana, ibintu bitumvikana. Turabasaba kurangwa n'ubumuntu, kurangwa n'indangagaciro za kinyarwanda zirimo umurava, zirimo gukunda igihugu, ubunyangamugayo, kugira ngo u Rwanda rukomeze gutera imbere no kwigobotora ibibazo bihangayikishije isi. Ndabashimiye cyane, murakoze. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your time this evening. We don't take it for granted. When we have friends around us, we feel stronger. When we have people around us during this time, it's the time when we need you most. And the time you spent with us patiently, we really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for delivering the closing remarks. Allow me to make two key announcements as we close this event. First of all, we'll proceed with a photo opportunity. The protocol will guide